a happy, healthy pig makes tastier pork and more nutritious pork.
Right.
And I mean, that's really, vitamin D,
Right.
living soil.
Yes. The balance of the omega-3s and the omega-5s, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so you get much more complex, much more nutritious fats, in particular, from an animal that's been in those conditions. And
So, Michael, you're harvesting, you said, 40 to 80 hogs a year. So tell me why small producers like you are opposed to the SOB Act.
okay, so I think there are probably several reasons. The first of which is most small farmers appreciate and value the animal welfare itself. In other words, how are we treating the animals?
And the SOB Act would negatively affect that?
It would negatively affect it because consumers who have fewer choices in their meat are usually have to choose more factory farmed pork.
Right.
Animals that have been raised in confined feeding operations. And so back to your question, why do small farmers oppose this? It just comes from a sense of ethics.
So the SOB Act would make for more farrowing crates?
Well, this goes back to sort of the impetus. What brought the SOB Act into existence was California and Massachusetts passed laws that required that sows have enough room to stand up and turn around in their crates.
Sounds great.
But apparently radical to the National Pork Producers Council and the four big companies that lobby for it. So
4 big companies. So how much of like the pork market do they control?
over 80%.
Okay. So
Over
that's a
80%.
whole lot of the pork that
It's
we would
the
eat.
American supply.
Pretty much any
much.
Walmart pork that you're going to buy is going to be one of those 4 producers.
You go to Walmart or even your small chain, increasingly, and in the case of pork since the 1980s, but when you look at agriculture across the United States, even right now, farmers are screaming because of what the tariffs are doing to the soybean and the corn farmers. And what happens when they go under? Acre traders. In other words, investment firms buy up the property and that becomes land farmed by corporate agriculture. Foreign corporations often. And so this trend towards consolidation.
Are there foreign corporations that are active in the pork market?
Very much. So we've got, most people have heard of Smithfield.
Yes.
Started in North Carolina.
Yes.
It was a real farm once.
It sure was. They invented a kind of ham.
So Smithfield is actually owned by WH. It's a Chinese corporation. Smithfield really is just a logo, a brand.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. JBS is owned by a Brazilian company. They control the slight majority of all the pork produced and consumed in the United States. We also have Tyson and Hormel. So those 4 big ones are part of a trend of consolidating agriculture. When agriculture consolidates into a more oligarchical type of economic system, it drives small farmers out of business.
Yeah.
Or there's J.D. Vance's company, Acre Traders. They're doing really well. When a farm goes under, they come in. It's a private equity company. They buy agricultural land and then lease it to corporations that run it. So, we could spend a lot of time. There's so many factors that are pushing hard against small local farms. And the problem is it hurts local, it hurts our sort of maintaining what we'll call foodways or food culture. You came from the Carolinas originally, right? Or your dad did?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of tradition around pork.
Right.
And how to prepare it. When people lose connections with the small farmers and the small butcher shops, their choice in food gets extremely limited to what is being delivered, increasingly in large national chain supermarkets. And so you lose some of our culture, you lose some good nutrition along the way.
Sure.
As food choices shrink.
Right. When food choices shrink and the nutritional content is degraded and people rely on convenience foods, and so it's not unusual for people to forget to cook or forget how to cook over a generation or 2.
I encounter this with smoked ham hocks all the time.
Oh yeah, people don't know what to do with it.
What do I do with it?
Yeah.
And I love telling them about it.
Right.
Because it's such a joy to make soup with smoked ham hocks.
Yeah.
There's another thing too. Small farmers are adjacent to their neighbors. They're less likely to pollute the water supply. They're less likely to overspray chemicals. They're more likely to treat their workers with a certain level of respect or even income. And so when we continue to lose small farms, again, large corporations don't have a good reputation for protecting the water supply. They don't have a good reputation for paying their workers enough. They don't have a good reputation for safety on their farms or meat processing plants. And so, you know, it doesn't take long to discover that there's a lot of problems with the consolidation of agriculture. And so the SOB Act, kind of bring it back to that, is an example where a certain number of representatives in Congress have been told by a particular interest, corporate agriculture, pass this law because we don't like some state laws that are happening. And we'll lose 2 or 3 cents per pound of profit if we have to adjust our management methods to meet the desires of the citizens of Massachusetts or California or Oklahoma.
So Representative Langworthy might have thousands of constituents in Western New York and the Southern Tier who are personally invested in farms who would be hurt by this legislation.
Hurt by the legislation and threatened in other ways too, because right now the legislation is written very broadly. So it could apply to dairy farms, it could apply to chicken farms, it could apply to vegetable farms. And so what happens is when a state, and this is where we get into the realm of states' rights. We haven't even talked about yet. That's a whole other problem with the SOB Act. Let's say New York passes a law to protect its maple syrup industry. And it says you cannot call your product maple syrup unless it's 100% maple syrup. Because here in New York, that's all we want sold. Otherwise, it's pancake syrup. Yeah, there you go. There's a lot of maple sugar producers and a lot of people proud of New York's maple syrup tradition would find that law really helpful for the small producers and the consumers to know I'm getting real 100%. The SOB Act gives the federal government the power to outlaw that. So in other words, New York couldn't say to a producer somewhere else, you can't bring your maple syrup here because it's not 100%. Or you can't prove that it's 100%, so you can't sell it in New York. The SOB Act is about getting rid of that barrier to protect New York growers. And the SOB Act doesn't want that.
So they want
lowest common denominator.
Yes, makes sense. Big corporations want a consistent set of regulations across all 50 states, and they want those regulations to be as easy on them and their business model as possible. But that's not necessarily a good thing for consumers or for local producers or our health or for the animals that are being raised.
And the environment and the long-term sort of stability of our very economy. I mean, this gets attached to other issues too, like our shrinking middle class. It used to be farmers were middle class.
Staples of the middle class.
Of local economies, certainly rural economies. It's not so much like that. We have the big farmers are doing fine. They're surviving.
They're trying to get bigger every year.
They have to.
Fine.
They have to. They're put on this treadmill. Let's walk around and see some little piglets.
Sounds great.
We can talk some more about this.
Cool.